And we are live. We are live. What's going on? Yeah, I'll start again. What's going on, guys? Hopefully you're doing well. Another live stream. Two in 3 days? Going crazy, man. I'm going crazy. Yeah, had a free evening, so I've got a free hour, so I thought I'd fire up a live stream. Talk some boxing, have a good time, and all that good stuff, man. All that good stuff. Been a long day, It's been a long day, so let's kick back and relax and talk some boxing. Yo, big up to Big Dan. What's going on, man? Hopefully you're doing well. Boxing Virus is already here. Big up to you. Boxing Stars videos. Not seen you before, man. What's going on? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're doing well. Got a cup of coffee here. Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyway, what's going on in the world of boxing right now? What is going on? So, Jamel Charlo versus Demetrius Andrade. That's a fight that's being talked about. Apparently, it's in negotiations. Could be going down in September, October. Now, that's a fight, man, we need, especially in the middleweight division. Stylistically, that's a great fight to watch. Fan-friendly. A battle of two contrasting styles. The boxer-puncher in Jamel Charlo versus the inside fighter in Derevyanchenko. I think that's a tremendous fight, man. I really do. I think it makes a lot of sense as well for Charlo. Since Charlo's won that WBC title, a lot of people view him as a paper champion. Whether that's his fault or not, it's not the debate. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people see him as a paper champion. If Charlo were to fight Derevyanchenko and beat him, I think that really legitimizes that belt that he holds. So I think this fight makes a lot of sense for Charlo in particular. And also for us fans, It's a great fight. That's a fight I really want to see. I really hope that gets made. Charlo versus Derevyanchenko. That's the one, man. That's a great fight. Yo, Bugsy Icon, big up to you, sir. Big up to Tone as well. Hopefully you're doing well. That guy, big up to you too as well, man. Big up to you. Okie dokie. Let me just open a new tab. 1 second. We're getting buzzed up on the old WhatsApp. We'll turn that off for now. Let me just turn that on silent because we don't want to get fucking hit up in this live stream. Okie dokie. There we go. That's all done. Yeah, exactly, Tone. About bloody time. 100%. 100%. I was really high on Jamel Charlo when he was at 154, when he was knocking out the likes of Julian Williams, fighting Austin Trout. I liked the look of him, I thought he looked really impressive. But since he's gone to middleweight, his career has really been on. It's been on standby basically. It's been on stall. He's not done anything. So Derevyanchenko, man, that's the fight for me. Excellent fight. Obviously, it's boxing, so it probably won't happen. But I'm going to be positive and try and will it into existence. What other fights that you wanted to see most this year before the shit went to hell? Inoue versus Casemiro, that was definitely one. A unification fight between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez, that was another. What else is there? The cruiserweight final between Briedis and Dorticos, that was another fight I was really looking forward to. Bivol versus Beterbiev. Yeah, there's a few, man. There's a few. Punch quote, take a screenshot. Charlo's going to stop him. Take it because that's all we can get instead of the Andrade fight. Better style matchup. Yeah, it could happen. It could happen, punch quote. Charlo hits hard. He really does. He hits hard with that right hand anyway. So you never know, man. Derevyanchenko, he's a hard puncher. Sorry, Charlo's a hard puncher. If he could time Derevyanchenko coming in, it's not out of the realms of possibility. Yeah, Lomachenko Lopez, that's another one. That's a great fight in itself. Unification fight. The two best lightweights in the division. A young, big guy in Lopez. Quick guy who can punch. That's a good fight as well. Yeah, Canelo Saunders, Boxing Virus. That was a good fight, but obviously Saunders is being Saunders. You can't rely on that guy to give you a good fight. I kind of see him similar to Charlo. He's just done nothing for me lately. The last time that guy gave me a fight I cared about was Lemieux. That was December 2017. So basically, he's done fuck all for 3 years. So I can't get behind someone like that. Unfortunately. AAA BBB, Derevyanchenko's going to KO Charlo. Seen Charlo fight live, he's too basic. Yeah, Charlo is he's kind of straight up and down. He's got a decent jab, decent straight right hand, but he is pretty basic actually. He's not all that dynamic. He's not all that quick. Slow feet. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think anybody's going to get knocked out in that fight though for some reason. I think it will go the distance. I think it's going to be competitive. Maybe a controversial decision in that one. I think that's a realistic possibility. I don't see Charlo knocking out Derevianchenko. Derevianchenko's shown he's got a good chin against Golovkin, against Jacobs. If Charlo were to knock him out, that's a very, very impressive statement. Very impressive statement. Yo, big up to Max Kuckerman. Hopefully you're doing well. Oh yeah, Saunders, man. Saunders is always out of shape. That guy's a joke right now. He's a joke. We can talk about his potential, his talent, but at the end of the day, you can't keep on relying on that. You can't keep living off that. Eventually, you've got to show us. And Saunders hasn't shown us for a long time. He really hasn't. We want to see him in there with Golovkin, with Canelo, with Andrade, with Callum Smith. These are the fights we want to see. But, he's not close to any of these fights. That's the reality right now. It's a shame because, like I say, he is talented. But if you're not giving me good fights, then fuck you. At the end of the day, Have you heard about Trout making progress in his legal case with the WBO? I've seen a headline on that story, but I've not read it. I have to confess. I've not read it. But that legal case has been going on for quite some time. I think that stems back to when Liam Smith won that vacant title, actually. So it's been going on a long time. A long time. Yeah, Saunders had the fight in May. Yeah, he didn't stay in the gym and stay ready for the new September date. Yeah, exactly. It's a joke. I know gyms were shut in the UK, but he could be keeping fit, doing some runs, cycling, swimming. Well, not swimming, but running, cycling, shadow boxing, things like that, hitting the heavy bag at home. He could have been keeping in shape. And obviously now gyms are open again. He could be sparring now and getting ready. He could have been ready for that fight. But Billy Joe Saunders doesn't have any professionalism, unfortunately. We can't count on this guy. We really can't count on him. Have you heard about Ajagba joining Top Rank? Yeah, I have heard about this. Now, has he joined Top Rank or has he just joined James Prince? Because I see he's joined James Prince. He's basically hired him as a new advisor. But has he actually left the PBC? I can't find that really, to be honest. If he has, I think it's a good signing for Top Rank. Ajagba, the jury is out. But, he's a decent prospect, I guess. He's got power. He's exciting. Top Rank are very good at matching prospects. So if they have signed Ajagba, I think it's a decent signing, to be honest. It's a decent signing. And if I'm a prospect in boxing right now and I'm based in America, I would sign with Top Rank. I think they're the best at matching prospects. They are the best at developing talent. So if that is true, I think that's a good move for Ajagba, to be honest. I think it's a good move. Yo, what's good, Intangible? Hopefully you're doing well, man. Big up to Intangible. Max Kuckerman. Charlo is like a little middleweight Wilder. He relies on his straight right-hand power. Yeah, he does. I think he's better than Wilder fundamentally, to be honest. I think he's got a better balance, better punch technique, better jab. I think he's a more talented fighter. But you're right, he does rely on power. He really does rely on power. Yeah, you are right. Is Team Bivol going to take the Beterbiev fight or not? Or do we have to play the age out game like the welterweights are doing with Crawford? Yeah, exactly. That's a fight that needs to happen. Two Russian guys, both unbeaten, unification fight. Again, a fight where there's contrasting styles. You've got the mover, the boxer in Bivol, and you've got the come forward boxer puncher in Beterbiev. So great style matchup. That fight needs to happen. relatively soon because Beterbiev isn't getting any younger. That's a great fight. That's a great fight. That's one of those fights I would say is one of my most anticipated or one of my most desired fights in boxing right now. If I were to make a top 5 list of fights that I want to see most, I would say that's definitely in there, to be honest. I would say that's definitely in there. Exactly, Boxing Virus. All you have to do is keep your body active and eat clean and stay caloric deficit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Ajagba is still with Ringstar. Yeah, that's Richard Schaefer's company. Yeah, okay. So he's just signed with James Prince. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But we'll see what Ajagba does next. You know, he's not been looking good in his last couple of fights. So I think they need to pump the brakes on Ajagba. You know, give him some more learning fights, get him some good sparring, and then step up in maybe a couple of fights time kind of thing. Because Ajagba has some good attributes, you know, nice straight right hand, decent jab, good power. He's got decent volume for a heavyweight. He's got some good attributes, but he is a little bit straight up and down. He's very open when he throws his shots. You know, if you punch with Ajagba, he looks very vulnerable. We saw that against Kaladze, you know. When Kaladze punched with Ajagba, he was having success. So Ajagba, he's got some raw potential. I would call Ajagba raw potential right now. But yeah, a lot of improvements need to be made there, in my opinion. A lot of improvements. Yo, big up to Eric, man. Hopefully you're doing well. Big up to John Wayne. Richard Schaefer is suspect as fuck. Yeah, the guy doesn't come across as trustworthy, does he? Richard Schaefer. Well, the guy was a former banker, I believe, so that really says it all. A Swiss banker. What can we say there? What can we say? Crazy D3, big up to you. Why is it taking forever for Hearn to make Joshua versus Pulev? Nobody wants to see the titles held up even further, prolonging potential undisputed. Yeah, exactly. I want to see that fight get made because me personally, I'm not really looking forward to that fight. I really don't see Pulev giving Joshua any kind of problems. I think Pulev these days is well past his best. I think he's been flattering to deceive in recent years. I've not been impressed with Pulev for years, to be honest. He looked pretty bad in his last fight against Rydell Booker. He looked very vulnerable against Bogdan Dinu. He looked pretty poor against Hughie Fury, in my opinion. He got buzzed against Hughie Fury. To me, Pulev hasn't been looking good for a long time. And I think he's shot. I think he's done. Well, not shot, but he's well past his best. I think he's pretty much done at the highest level. And I think Joshua knocks him out quite easily. So I'm not really looking forward to that fight. So get it made, get it out of the way, and move on, you know? Move on. Ajagba versus Taka would be a solid step up right now. That's actually a really good fight, Boxing Virus. I think it would be very risky for Ajagba though. I know Takam didn't look all that great against Jerry Forrest, but Takam is a tough dude. He's got a chin. He's durable, and he'll keep on coming, man. He'll put real pressure on. Maybe it's a bit too soon for that fight right now, given how Ajagba's been struggling in recent fights. Maybe it's a bit too soon, but I would love to see it. I would certainly love to see it. I really would. Yeah, exactly. Punch quote. Yeah, Schaefer's Swiss-based, so he's got that banker money behind him. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I agree, BBB. Pulev's a good tune-up for Joshua after quarantine. Yeah, I agree. Swiss banker, is that Cockney rhyming slang? No, it's not. It could be, though. It could be. It works, though, doesn't it? It does work with Richard Schaefer. Yeah, Ajagba, yeah, he got dropped in that last fight against Kaladze. He got dropped quite hard. Well, I don't know whether... I'm not sure how hurt he really was, to be honest. He was kind of square on, and he got caught. He got dropped, one of those things. He went on to stop the guy, so fair play, but the guy has a lot of defensive holes. That can be said. That can definitely be said. Would the sport of boxing benefit better at this point if it was bought by a huge company like the UFC and had one belt? Interesting question. The problem is with that model, as good as the UFC are, and you know they put on a great product, there are still talent outside the UFC who don't really get the recognition they deserve because they're not in the UFC. So there is that problem, but you know, at the end of the day, the UFC do give their customers great fights. You know, they give them fights they really want to see on a regular basis. So maybe it could work in boxing. I'm not sure. I don't think that sort of format would ever work, though, in all honesty. You know, not for a long, long time anyway. The people who are in boxing right now, you know, they've been in the game for years and years and years, and they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't think anything's really going to change in the next few years, in the next couple of decades, to be honest. Boxing Brains, big up to Boxing Brains. Did you think Xiu's stoppage of Judah was good or should have been given the count? No, I think it was good, man. I think it was a good stoppage, you know. I mean, Zab Judah, man, he was doing that silly dance. He was done, man. He was done. He couldn't fight on like that, in my opinion. That was an iconic knockout, though, man. Just the reaction after he got up, you know, it was kind of funny, but yeah, I think the referee made the right decision in that fight. I think Judah would have got knocked out shortly after, to be honest. I think he would have got knocked out soon after. Speaking of Xiu, Tim Xiu, his son, is fighting Jeff Horn in August. That's a hell of a step up for Tim Xiu. A lot of people are picking Jeff Horn in that fight. They think Tim Xiu's going to get exposed. I'm not entirely sure yet, to be honest. It's a massive step up, though. And fair play to the kid, you know. He's got his dad's name, you know, a famous name. He could be living off that. But, you know, he's stepping up already. And he has to be commended for that. I'm really looking forward to that fight, actually. Tim Xiu versus Jeff Horn. I think that's a good fight. I think that's a really good fight. Great for Australian boxing. It really is. That's a great fight coming out of Australia. I know I've got a couple of Australian subs, and they say a lot of the pay-per-views over there, you know, are for terrible fights. You know, they put anything on pay-per-view. At least that's a worthy fight down under to be on pay-per-view. That's a good fight. Yeah, Jeff Horn is the underdog, though, John Wayne. You're right. I looked at the odds today on Paddy Power, I think it was. And yeah, Jeff Horn is the underdog, believe it or not. I'm surprised because all the fans I see are picking Jeff Horn, but the bookies are saying Tim Xiu. So, yeah, man, but Jeff Horn is definitely worth he's definitely worth a bet. If you've got a few quid laying about, chuck a tenner on Jeff Horn. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Although I have to say, I don't think Jeff Horn looks anywhere near as good as he did at welterweight. Since he's moved above welterweight, doesn't really look like the same fighter, you know? He can't rely on those physical traits that he had at 147. And maybe that's going to be his undoing. Who knows? Tim Xiu should grow a rat tail like his dad. Yeah, man. Yeah, Costa Xiu was a great fighter. He had a great style to watch as well. Real power, nice jab. You know, done the basics really well. Excellent timing. Great distance control. Really, really good fighter. Really, really good fighter. Who do you think would win? Ray Vargas or Emmanuel Navarrete? To be honest, I'm not really all that high on Ray Vargas. I would say Emmanuel Navarrete on points. I think Vargas is tricky enough. He's awkward enough to make the distance, but Navarrete outworks him, in my opinion. Yo, big up to Unrivaled, man. Big up to Unrivaled. Thank you very much for the super chat. By the way, I will start doing regular live streams again where we have people on. I just need to get back into the swing of things. I've not done this for so long. So I want to get a couple of lives going, you know, get the cobwebs off, shake off a ring rust, and basically then we'll have some people on. So maybe the next stream I'm going to start having people on again, to be honest. G-Man Boxing as well, man. Big up to G-Man Boxing. By the way, lads, in the chat, check out Unrivaled Boxing Talking News and G-Man Boxing. Both guys have channels and excellent channels. Been following them for quite some time. So check these guys out. Yeah, Boxing Virus. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I think Horn can rough him up to a decision. Yep. And that fight is only a 10-rounder, by the way. Jeff Horn requested that fight to be a 10-rounder, which is interesting. If I'm the more experienced fighter who's been around, I would want that fight to be a 12-rounder against a young prospect. I'd want to take him into deep waters. I'm not sure why Jeff Horn's requesting that fight to be a 10-rounder, because Tim Xiu wanted a 12-rounder. I'd be saying, do you know what? He's a young pup. Let's do a 12-rounder. I'm going to drown you. You know, I'm going to drown you. That's what I'd be saying if I was Jeff Horn, but that's interesting to me. I think that has to be considered. Maybe Jeff Horn doesn't have that hunger anymore, hence why he's requesting 10 rounders. I'm not sure. Yeah, John. Yeah, I've not been impressed with Jeff Horn above welterweight, to be honest. I mean, he lost to Michael Zarafa, and even in that rematch, he was very fortunate. If you've watched that fight, he was basically helped to the decision, to be honest. But there we go. What do you think of Henry Cejudo wanting to train boxing to fight Ryan Garcia? To be honest, Al Nazarino, I'm not all that interested in these UFC boxing crossovers. I like Henry Cejudo as an MMA fighter. I think Ryan Garcia is a great prospect. Both guys, in my opinion, should stick to their own lanes and do their thing, man. I'm not really interested in these crossovers, to be honest. Not really all that interested. The only way I'd be interested, right? Let's say a UFC fighter, he retires from UFC and he says, "I'm going to take up boxing full time. This is my new career. I'm going to give my heart and soul into boxing, and I'm going to start from the ground up, start from 4 rounders upwards." Even if like an MMA fighter did that, they'd have my support because they're learning from the ground up. I'm not a fan of these guys coming into boxing and taking a massive fight, and vice versa. If you want to do MMA, if you want to do boxing, do it from the ground up. Give these sports the respect they deserve. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, where we at? Navarrete officially at 126 now. WBO, yeah, exactly, yeah. So Navarrete's moved up to 126, and that WBO title is vacant at 122. Yeah, interesting. Do you really fight? I need a drink. 1 second. Do you really think Spence fights Garcia next? And if so, do you think Danny is worth betting on? Yeah, why not? Because let's be honest, man, we've got no idea what Spence looks like right now. He's not sparred for nearly a year. He had that car crash in October. He last fought in September. I'm assuming he's not sparred after the Sean Porter fight. I'm assuming that because he wasn't cleared to spar after the accident. I still don't think he's cleared to spar. So he's not been active. He's not been training properly. He's not been having combat experience. So Danny Garcia is a good bet in my opinion. Errol Spence Jr. has not taken a punch for quite some time. And that makes a difference. Who knows? Errol Spence Jr. could be a shell of his former self. You never know. But I certainly think Danny's worth a bet. If Danny's ever going to beat Errol Spence Jr., now's the time. The male stripper's underrated. Yeah, Michael Zarafa is not a bum. He's a good, solid, kind of like a Commonwealth level fighter. Maybe a bit above a Commonwealth level fighter. If he was from the UK, probably European level, I would say. Decent fighter. Del, did you see Sean Newton bigged you up and disagreed with you at the same time in one of his videos? No. You'll have to link me on that one. I've not seen it. But big up to Sean Newton. Yeah, Jeff Horn has controversial victories. Yeah, the Jeff Horn fight, the Manny Pacquiao fight. Yeah, he's got some controversial ones. He really does. Yeah, Danny has power, John. He's worth a tenner. I agree. You never know, man. You never know. I think that's a decent fight for Errol Spence to come back to. In fact, when it was talked about Errol Spence coming back, I thought he was going to fight a complete no-hoper. If he fights Danny Garcia, it's better than what I was originally expecting, to be honest. So I've not really got a problem with that fight if it does happen. I've not got a problem. Yes, big up to AA Boxing and Blunts. He says, "Evening, gents. Just having a cheeky smoke in car as banned from smoking near my house." Jesus Christ. You're smoking the good stuff, Fair play to you, man. Fair play to you. Yeah, Lance, I think it's worth putting a cheeky little bet on Garcia, to be honest. I think it's worth putting a cheeky bet on Garcia. Because, like I say, if he's ever going to beat Garcia, it's going to be now. Do you know what I mean? Sorry. If he's going to beat Spence, it's going to be now. But I still see, if Errol Spence has anything left, he's going to beat Danny Garcia. Mr. Doc, big up to Mr. Doc. Could Spence end up like Thurman, domesticated by injuries and inactivity? Potentially, yeah. Keith Thurman to me has been he's been one of the biggest disappointments in boxing for the past 5, 6, 7 years, in my opinion. Because when he burst onto the scene, he had an exciting style. He was knocking people out. He was saying all the right things. I've got to know, and I'm not afraid to let it go. He was saying everything right. When he became a champion, made a bit of money, he completely changed his tune. He started to play politics. He picked up injuries. He was being inactive, just being a big disappointment, Keith Thurman. As much as I actually rate him as a fighter, when he's at his best, he's a good fighter, but I don't think Keith Thurman's about it anymore. I really don't. And maybe Errol Spence Jr. could be going down that same path. This guy's clearly got problems outside the ring in terms of, alcohol abuse and things like that. I think that much is clear. He needs to really sort that out, because I think he's a really good talent. I think he's a really good fighter. I think I think he could be the best welterweight in the world if he applied himself. But you can't live that sort of life, man. You really can't. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. Whether it's in the ring or in your personal life. And we've seen that with Errol Spence. That sort of lifestyle, man, is not conducive of being a productive person in general, man. It's really not. It's really not. Boxing Virus, he says, Danny Garcia is very underrated. I think he needs to increase his punch output and do footwork drills. Those are his biggest weaknesses, in my opinion. I agree, in particular with the punch output, because Danny Garcia at times is low output. And I think against Errol Spence, he needs to be working a little bit harder. He needs to be punching with Errol Spence, because Errol Spence can get caught in those moments. When Porter was exchanging with Spence, he was catching him. I think that's a good point. Anybody else noticed we're not seeing many interviews from Frank Warren? Yeah, maybe Frank Warren's stuck in COVID. maybe he's stuck in COVID. He dodged those bullets. Now he's dodging COVID. Big up to Frank Warren. It looks like a tough comeback for Spence, all things considered. I agree, man. I agree. I'm surprised to see so many people shitting on that fight. I don't mind it, to be honest with you. I don't mind that fight at all. I think stylistically as well, that fight's going to be fun. And let's be honest, man. Danny Garcia is not an easy fight for anybody. He's not an easy fight for anybody. I know he's lost his biggest fights at welterweight, but he gave Keith Thurman a hard fight. He gave Sean Porter a close fight as well. So the guy's not going to get fucking bowled over. He's going to give it a go. He'll have his moments. It's going to be fun. Why not, man? Why not? Big up to Johnny Boy Boxing. He says Danny needs to get his father to rehab and some clothes on his sisters ASAP. I agree with you in regards to his father, but man, leave his sisters alone, man. They're not too bad, They're pretty fine. I've got no problem with the Garcia sisters. No problem at all. They're the best things about the Garcias right now. No doubt. No doubt. Did anybody see that Frank Warren's first show back peaked at 20k viewers and averaged 5k live? Jesus, that's terrible. That's terrible, unrivaled. That's awful. But again, people are not willing to watch shit. We've not seen boxing for quite some time, but people are not going to accept shit. Oh, nice. That's great news. Ghislaine Maxwell just got denied bail. Trial set for July 2021. So they've got what? They've basically got a year to kill her. Or she's got a year to catch COVID, trip on a banana skin and die, or commit suicide, quote unquote. She's got a year to somehow kill herself. Johnny Boy Boxing, he says, in January, I said Spence will turn into Thurman 2.0 in the next couple of years. I certainly think it's possible, Johnny Boy. I certainly think it's possible. Big up to Ian Ward. He says, hi, Del. Who do you think would win out of David Benavidez and Canelo? Right now, I've got to say Canelo based on experience. I think Canelo is basically in his prime right now, whereas Benavidez, still to me, while being an impressive fighter and a guy with a high ceiling, I just think David Benavidez is quite green right now. I think Canelo would have too much for him, to be honest. Good fight though. Benavidez's size would be a problem, and his punch output also, his work rate. Those will be problems, but defensively, Benavidez leaves a lot to be desired. He'll give Canelo all of the counterpunch opportunities in the world, And I just think Canelo would outpoint him, to be honest. I think he'd outpoint him. Yeah, that's hilarious. Unrivaled. Keith Thurman saying Spence needs to see him or leave the division is hilarious. It's beyond hilarious. Unrivaled. It's a joke, man. Like I said, Keith Thurman to me is just a big disappointment. Big disappointment. And like John Wayne said, he used to be a fan of Keith Thurman. So did I. I used to like Keith Thurman a lot. I don't dislike the guy, but he's just disappointing me as a boxing fan. That's what it is. You know, that's what it is. And again, in that Pacquiao fight, he put on a great show. He put on a great show against Manny Pacquiao. But not built on it. Another year out of the ring. Another year out of a ring, man. Crazy. Johnny Boy, he's saying Spence will stop Danny and will be the first man to do so. I think it's possible. I think it's possible. You look at how Lamont Peterson really gave Danny that work in that fight in the second half. He was really getting to Danny Garcia by applying pressure, working the body, getting up close. That's what Errol Spence does, but with more size, more power, and more intelligent boxing. So it could happen. It could definitely happen. Big up to Northern Rodney. Big up to you, sir. Exactly, man. Nothing wrong with the Garcia sisters' wardrobe. You tell Johnny, man. You tell Johnny. Johnny's saying they're basic. Listen, man, basic works. Basic works. You know? Nothing wrong with a bit of basic, man. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. What do you think of Terriano Johnson and Jason Quigley being options for a Canelo fight? They would both get killed. Boxing virus. I like Terriano Johnson. He's a good, honest pro. He's a tough dude, but no match for Canelo. As for Jason Quigley, not impressed at all with Jason Quigley, to be honest. He was a really good amateur, but as a pro, just not really. It's not really panned out for him, to be honest. Yeah, it's not really panned out. Boxing virus, he says Canelo versus Murata, all Ryder are solid options. Yeah, I agree. I would like to see John Ryder get that shot because I felt, like I say, I keep on saying it, but in my opinion, he clearly beat Callum Smith. And if he gets that fight with Canelo, that will be justice, in my opinion, for getting robbed. If Ryder gets that fight and Callum Smith doesn't, I think that will be beautiful, to be honest. I really do. Beautiful. Frank's checks bounce more than Miguel Cotto's wife's titties. Yes, sir. Big up to Miguel Cotto's wife, by the way. Shall we get a little picture of Miguel Cotto's wife and put it as our avatar? Let's have a look. We need to get the older titties in show, though. Miguel Cotto, wife. Please hold, gentlemen. Please hold. Melissa Guzman, her name is. Let me get a solid picture of her wife, of his wife. I can't really get a proper solid picture, you know. Fuck's sake. Can't really get a solid picture. That's unfortunate. Oh, hello. I'm definitely a fan, though, put it that way. Oh, fuck it. Oh, now I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. Do you ever think Billy Joe Saunders will get in the ring with a live opponent? I'm personally done with him. I feel the same, Kudzi, to be honest. I feel the same. I think he's talented. You know, he's got potential. But at the end of the day, he's not given us a fight that we really care about since David Lemieux. That was, what, now 3 years ago. He's done nothing recently, so I'm not going to get behind him or really push him out there. He's not delivering right now. Not delivering. I feel the same way about people like Jamel Charlo, Tank Davis, you know. Talent, yeah, but what are you doing? You're doing absolutely nothing. Yet people hype these guys up, man. You know, I made a video being very critical of Billy Joe Saunders and his fans were like, out of control, man. Out of control. What's he given these guys, man? Apart from Shiva Isufi and some Argentinian cab driver in the past 3 years. What's he given these dudes? Why are they so high on him? I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. You know, it's different in a case of a fighter fighting poor competition, but he's being avoided. That's different. But when you're not being avoided and you're still fighting shit competition, that's when it gets a bit, that's when it winds me up. Yeah, I saw that, MB. Tyrone Nurse fighting Kerman Lejaraga on August the 8th. Yeah, I saw that. That's at 154 as well. I think Kerman should beat up Tyrone Nurse. Tyrone Nurse is a guy who never makes the most of his boxing ability at domestic level. He always gets involved in tear-ups when he could box. You know, he's quite talented, really. But yeah, I think Kerman should win that fight, to be honest. I think Tyrone's seen better days as well. I think he's seen better days. Yep. Ryder should be the WBC champion. Or do you mean the WBA champion? I think Callum Smith had. Spencer's nipples were looking puffy in his last video of him training. Fucking hell. Oh dear. Who's the best 130-pounder in your opinion? I'm going to go with Miguel Berchelt, Andre. Miguel Berchelt is my number one, but Jamel Herring has really improved in recent fights. I think he's a good boxer, tall, rangy guy. I would say Berchelt number one, Herring number two, Jojo Diaz number three, I would say, in that order. You know? But 130, like, the only thing with Berchelt, again, he's not really doing enough recently, man. He's not doing enough. He needs to fight Jamel Herring. That's the fight we want to see, man. Unification fight. That's the shit we want to see. Ryder should be, but isn't. He lost the fight on the cards. Fed up of hearing about Ryder. No, justice for John Ryder, man. Come on now. Callum Smith. I can't stand Callum Smith, honestly. I really can't. Oh, dear. Dwyer actually picked Saunders to beat Canelo when the fight was originally announced for May 2nd. Man, that's a brave pick, man. That's a brave pick. Billy Joe Saunders would have to completely outbox Canelo like Floyd did. And Billy Joe Saunders, while he's a good boxer, he's not on that level. He's not beating Canelo. He's not beating Canelo. And even Floyd, Floyd completely schooled him, like 11 rounds to 1, maybe 12 rounds to 0, and one of the judges still had it a draw. So that goes to show what you need to do against Canelo on the cards to win. You know, you got to win every round, basically. Spence talks like he's got CTE from that crash. I've heard a lot of people say this. I've heard a lot of people say his speech is worse. He's never really been a clear speaker, you know. He's always been kind of like slurry, I guess. You know, he's got that deep sort of Texan accent. I don't really notice a big difference, to be honest. I don't really notice a big difference. Dwyer is the Eddie Mush of the YTBC. You know what? I like Dwyer. I don't mind Dwyer. I don't always agree with his picks, but Dwyer's an OG, man. He's been here for a long time. He's an OG. Do you think, hand on heart, Kell Brook has had sexual relations with another male? More than likely. I mean, that whole story about him getting stabbed in Spain. Listen, man, there's a lot about that story that we've not been told. And yeah, I would say yes to your question. I would say yes, personally. But that's just my opinion. Not making any accusations or anything like that, you know? Just my opinion. I don't like Callum Smith either, but you like Joe Gallagher a whole lot less, arrogant prick. Yeah, Joe Gallagher's even worse than Callum Smith. I'll be honest, I'm not sure whether I'd actually listen. Callum Smith, to me, I don't dislike him personally per se, but just the way his career's been moved, you know, just been very boring kind of thing almost, you know. He's not really pushed on since that World Boxing Super Series win. Just not done anything recently. Another one of these guys who hasn't done anything recently. So I can't really give him the time of day. Nobody was ever charged with the Kell Brook stabbing. Yeah, that's interesting as well. That's interesting as well. Now, was that because Kell Brook didn't want to press charges or because he just wasn't caught? Whatever, I'm not sure, but interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, but Kell Brook definitely is suspect. He's definitely suspect. Joe Gallagher opens doors with his forehead. Oh dear. Yeah, big up to Minimax Boxing. By the way, Minimax, I saw your interview with Gary Russell Jr., man. That's a good interview. 20 minutes with Gary Russell Jr. That's no easy feat because he's a guy who doesn't really have a lot to say for himself. So fair play, man. A good interview with Gary Russell. But Arslanbek Makhmudov versus Tony Yoga, who wins? Tony Yoka, while he's talented, he's been very inactive, which is a bit of a concern. And I'm not convinced about Tony Yoka's durability, to be honest. I'm not convinced. Makhmudov's a really hard puncher, but he's got his defensive flaws. He's kind of crude at times, but do you know what? I think I might pick Makhmudov to knock out Tony Yoka. I think I might. Yeah, I might pick. Yeah, I'm going to pick Makhmudov to knock out Tony Yoka. Makhmudov by knockout, but a really good fight. I'm not sure Yoka can box around this dude for 12 rounds, to be honest. And I'm not really sure whether he's got the ability I'm not sure whether he's got the power to knock this dude out. I would pick Makhmudov. That wasn't the kind of stabbing he was hoping for. Exactly, Tone. Kelbrook, he got more than he bargained for. Bless him. Does Semereta have a chance to upset GGG, or is he getting knocked the fuck out? He's getting knocked the fuck out. Boxing Virus says Moreta. I would say he's like a European level fighter, decent boxer, but no power. No power at all. He's not going to keep Golovkin off of him. He's going to get knocked out in the mid rounds. I would say he'll get knocked out in the mid rounds. Sorry. Pool 1, 2, 3. Which result in boxing in recent years hurt you the most? I still haven't gotten over Ward getting that rubbish decision over Kovalev. I stopped watching boxing for 6 months after that. Damn, interesting question. What fight pissed me off the most? Do you know what? Golovkin Canelo 1, that pissed me off because of the draw, those terrible scorecards. That pissed me off. Ryder versus Callum Smith pissed me off. Kovalev Ward pissed me off. What else was there? There was another one that I can't quite fucking get my brain to remember. Oh, Daryl Williams versus Zach Parker. That was a domestic fight in the UK. That was a disgusting robbery. Yeah, Daryl Williams versus Zach Parker. So yeah, those are ones that come off the top of my head. No crowd equals neutral venue. White Povetkin has got to be 50-50 now. Yeah, that's a good point, There are some fighters out there who thrive off the crowd. It gives them an extra 5%. That really does exist. I'm convinced of it. So this whole no crowd thing could actually change the dynamic of fights. And White Povetkin could be one of those fights. White's a fiery character, I think he's that type of guy who will thrive off that crowd energy. Whereas Povetkin is a calm, measured, stoic individual. Maybe this suits him more. It's a really good question. A good point, Sal West. Really good point. Really good point. Pool 1, 2, 3. Ward is the most insufferable arsehole. Yeah, Ward for me, do you know what? Ward, I was never a big fan of Ward as a fighter. I don't mind him as a commentator, actually. I don't mind Ward as a commentator, to be honest. He's hit and miss, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, hit and miss to me. TW Design Limited, big up to you. Dillian White versus Lucas Brown pissed me off. People making Lucas Brown very, very good when he was a total bum. Yeah, a lot of people went overboard with that win. A lot of people went overboard. Lucas Brown, man, yeah, he's a lummox basically. He can barely move his own body weight these days. Lucas Brown never looked the same since he got busted for PEDs. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, he thinks he's Floyd Mayweather. He spent his career hiding in his hometown fighting in arenas that were half full. Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing with Andre Ward. I wish he kind of travelled. I mean, he could have fought Butte in Canada. That was one of the fights he could have taken. I know Butte, in hindsight, wasn't the guy people thought he was. But, if Ward was the first guy to do that to him instead of Froch, would have made his record looking even a bit more better, But it is what it is. It is what it is. What can we say? Shakur Stevenson versus Miguel Berchelt. Who wins? Shakur Stevenson, very talented, but I still think he's green. Miguel Berchelt's a tough dude. He's a big dude. Punches hard. Throws a lot of punches. Great pressure fighter. Do you know what? I think that could be a bridge too far for Stevenson right now. I would make Berchelt a favourite, to be honest. I would make Berchelt a favourite. If Stevenson could beat Berchelt at this stage, that's very impressive in my opinion. It's very impressive. I get the feeling that Ward wants Bradley gone so he can be lead co-commentators. Yeah, I agree. I don't like Tim Bradley as a commentator. I loved Tim Bradley as a fighter. He was one of my favourite fighters when he was active. But as a commentator, I'm not a fan, man. Minimax is a fan of Bradley, but I'll be honest, he doesn't do it for me. He doesn't do it for me, man. I think he gets a little too overexcited sometimes. He gets a little too overexcited. Sonny Edwards versus Asomba. Asomba's a good fighter at Commonwealth level, John Wayne. But I think Sonny Edwards is going to box past him, like a 12-round decision or 10-round decision, however long that fight is. Yes, TW Design, I've said this myself. The Dave Allen hype train pissed me off as well. Yeah, I agree, bro. I mean, Dave Allen's had more chances than fucking God knows who, man. Insane. This is a guy who's made a career off banter, essentially. That's what he's based his career on. Banter and social media following, basically. It's certainly not his fighting ability. It's certainly not his career achievements or anything like that. It's merely his profile on social media. And that's all well and good. But don't rely on that and then come in the ring out of shape time and time and time again. You've had so many opportunities, yet you continuously come in the ring out of shape. I'm not concerned about his lack of skill. That is what it is, man. But at least come in there in decent shape with a decent work ethic. Not doing that is unacceptable as far as I'm concerned when you're getting all of these opportunities. Completely unacceptable. Just how I see it. Okay. Saw Charles' day yesterday and... Yeah, sorry. Who are you talking about, Ian? Maybe I'm misreading that. Paul123, Ricky Hatton revealed Brown had been taking depression medication during the white build-up and didn't train. Yeah, I heard something similar. I also heard he trained just before the fight, and apparently he got beat the fuck up by Chisora in sparring before that fight. Apparently he got beat up. Yeah, TW Design. Yeah, Ward had fights left on the table. Ward could have become undisputed by fighting Adonis Stevenson. Because at that point, Ward had 3 of the 4 belts at light heavyweight. He should have really fought Adonis Stevenson and, in my opinion, Beterbiev at that time. Beterbiev was the IBF mandatory and Stevenson held the WBC. If Ward went on to beat Stevenson, become undisputed, and then beat Beterbiev, his record looks fucking amazing at that point, despite he would have only had 34 fights, but his record would have looked so much better. It looks good now, don't get me wrong, but it could have been a lot better. Yeah, Tim's a little biased, Minimax, but I think all of these commentators who work for a network are biased to a certain extent. Some are worse than others, though. I think Paulie Malignaggi is one of the better ones, to be honest. Al Bernstein is pretty good. I think Al Bernstein's the best. That is true, Andre. Burchell is very slow. I wouldn't say he's very slow, but he's nowhere near as quick as Stevenson. Stevenson is a better boxer, no doubt about it. But sometimes, man, that's not always what wins you fights, man. Burchell is very experienced. He's big. He's strong. He hits hard. He's got a lot of volume. A young fighter like Stevenson could become overwhelmed with that sort of opponent. So if I'm managing Stevenson, I'm not going to chuck him in there with Burchell yet. I'm going to give it a few fights. But you never know, man. He could do it. He could do it. At the end of the day, this guy, he's an Olympic silver medalist, so the guy can box. So he could certainly win that fight. But if I were to pick right now, I would pick Burchell personally. Right now, I'd pick Burchell. Which premature stoppage have you seen that shocked you the most when you watched it live? Jones versus Rose with Ian John Lewis made me piss my pants. Yeah, that was bad. Kyle Froch, George Groves 1 was terrible. That was an awful stoppage, because George Groves was piecing Kyle Froch up throughout that fight. He was schooling Kyle Froch. Kyle Froch had one bit of success. He semi-buzzed George Groves and the referee jumps in and waves it off. That was the worst one in recent years, in my opinion. Yeah, Groves versus Froch is up there. There was another one, Oval McKenzie versus Enzo Macronelli. That was another one. I think the first fight. Yeah, exactly. Dave Allen gets all those chances. You would think he'd at least go out for a run. Yeah, exactly, man. Muhammad Ali versus Joe Louis, who wins? I would say Ali personally. I think Ali's too dynamic. He's too dynamic. He's too quick on his feet. The hand speed, the volume. I think all round he's just a more dynamic, athletic heavyweight. Joe Louis could punch. He was a good. He had a good understanding of range, but I would say Muhammad Ali beats Joe Louis personally. Outboxes him. I think he outboxes him to a points win. I feel blue collar as British boxing fans, we get sold some crap at times. I mean, Amir Khan hype train was like a cult on BBC News for like 15 years. Yeah, Khan was really hyped at one point in the UK. Not been as bad in recent years, obviously. Now he's kind of gone downhill, but at one point, the Khan hype was real. It really was. Exactly, and you don't hear about the likes of Josh Taylor. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Josh Taylor's a unified champion. Look at the guys he's beaten. Regis Prograis, who in my opinion is a very good fighter. I think Prograis is very good. He's beat Postal, you know. He's beat Ivan Baranchik, Miguel Vasquez. He's beaten some good fighters. He beaten some good fighters, man. So yeah, I agree. Certain fighters get praised, certain fighters don't, you know, in the media. Boxing is a niche sport, though, so they're only really going to cover the guys who are going to get them clicks on their articles. That's how it is these days, man. The worst commentary is on Fox. Yeah, Fox is pretty bad, from what I've heard. Over here, Sky Sports is terrible. Sky Sports is awful with commentary, in my opinion. Especially the regular shows when it's not pay-per-view. Because when Sky Sports have pay-per-view cards, at least they get Malinaji on, who speaks some sense. But on the regular Sky shows, it really is terrible. It's terrible, man. Yeah, I do, MB. Remember when Frank Warren sent poor George Jupp to Mexico to fight Birchelt? Yeah, George Jupp got beat the fuck up in that fight, man. He got beat up. He got beat up, man. Lennox Lewis is an awful commentator, constantly arguing with Joe Goosen, who is also annoying. Yeah, Lennox was a great fighter. In my opinion, the best heavyweight since Ali. But as a commentator, nah. He's bad. He really is bad. Shakur cried when he lost to Robisi Ramirez, which shows if a fight isn't going his way, he might fold. Potentially. The only thing I would say, he was very young when that happened. Very young, so I won't hold that against him. Man. But yeah, you never know, man. You never know. Khan clearly fell out of love with boxing years ago after Garcia KO'd him. He never got over that loss psychologically. Yeah, that loss really kind of started the downfall, I would say, for Khan. Although after that fight, he did beat Collazo, he did beat Alexander, but stylistically, they were favourable fights for him. But yeah, I think I agree. Andre, Navarrete versus Conlon, who wins? I think Navarrete beats Conlon up, to be honest. I don't think Michael Conlon has really looked all that great as a pro so far. Great amateur, but I think he's going to be one of those guys who turns pro and they don't replicate that amateur form as a professional. That's what I see with Michael Conlon. I think Navarrete's too strong, too much volume, you know, just too much of a hard man for Michael Conlon, to be honest. I'd watch it, though. I'd definitely watch it, Andre. That's a fight that could happen, actually, now at 126. Now that title's vacant, that fight could actually happen. I think it's going to be Navarrete versus either Conlon, Magdaleno, or someone else. I forgot who the third guy was. Birchelt is like the Callum Smith of Top Rank. He should have a much bigger profile. He's a savage, yeah. I think Birchelt actually, I know he's come forward. I know he makes a lot of mistakes defensively, but he does some stuff good in there, in my opinion. I think he's a good fighter, Birchelt. But he needs to step up. He needs to step up, man. It's all well and good me saying he's a good fighter, but when you're fighting cream puffs, what does it matter? That's just my opinion. We need to see it. You know, we need to be proven that he's a good fighter. I could be wrong. I could be right. But I want to find out, man. I want to find out. One of the best British commentators for Crawford Burns says the Burns that fought Kevin Mitchell would beat Crawford, laughing my arse off. Yeah, that's ridiculous, man. Terence Crawford would beat any version of Ricky Burns that ever existed. Ricky Burns could have a samurai sword in his right hand and a fucking sledgehammer in his left hand, Terence Crawford's still beating him. Do you know what I mean? Jesus. Oh, Joe Tessitura, yeah. Joe Tessitura. Now, controversially, Mr. Doc, I don't mind Joe Tessitura. I don't mind him. I'll tell you who I don't like on ESPN. I think it's ESPN anyway. Mark Kriegel. I don't like that dude. Not a fan of that guy. I know he used to be on ESPN. Not sure whether he still is or not, but I don't like Mark Kriegel. Yo, Big Jim McDonald. What's going on, man? Hopefully you're doing well, brother. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, how's Liz? As Tone says, how's Liz? How's Liz? Here, overhand prediction. Here, Conlon is magically going to be WBA regular Mando, and he'll pass on the WBO shot. Yeah, laugh out loud. Exactly. Yeah, I think Conlon realizes, man, he can't beat Navarrete. He can't beat Stevenson. He's going to get whooped when he fights the top talent. Trust me, he's going to get whooped when he fights the top 10 guy. I think he's going to get beat up personally. At one point, when Conlon and Stevenson first signed to Top Rank, they was talking about that fight in the future. I've noticed they've gone very quiet on that now. I think they realised Conlon would get busted up. They realise that. I don't think they have faith in Conlon. I think the plan for Conlon from Top Rank's perspective is to basically get that guy a cheap belt, you know? That's what the plan is. They're not going to risk this dude. They're not going to risk him. And once he has a cheap belt, then maybe feed him to Stevenson when he's got something to offer, because right now, all Conlon has got going for him in that fight is a beating, to tell you the truth. Yeah, Burns got schooled every single round against Crawford. Schooled every single round, every single second, every single minute. Fact. What do you think of Kerman Lejaraga versus Tyrone Nurse? Yeah, a fun little fight, Jim. Fun little fight. Tyrone Nurse, in my opinion, one of those guys who probably doesn't utilize his boxing ability, gets involved in too many tear-ups. I think Kerman's going to have too much for him, tell you the truth. I think Kerman's going to have too much for him. Is it just me, or does anybody else think it's a disgrace how little Sky seem to celebrate Nazim Hamid? He made them millions of pounds, but they never have him or seem to mention him as a British great. Yeah, I agree, Paul 123. Nazim Hamid's a weird one, because do you know when somebody, it's like David Beckham in football. He was so famous. He was so famous at one point, people kind of called him overrated. But I think you can be so overrated that you're underrated, if that makes sense. That probably doesn't make any sense. But a lot of people say, well, Nazim Hamid only fought one good guy and he lost. Not true. He beat some good fighters, man. He beat Wayne McCulloch, Tom Johnson, Milan Melindo. He beat some good fighters, man. Kevin Kelly. He had some good wins. He wasn't a bad fighter at all, Nazim Hamid. And he made Sky millions, like you said. He made Sky millions. The disappointing thing with Nazim Hamid was how he ended his career. He lost and basically retired. That's the disappointing thing about Nazim Hamid. And that is a legitimate criticism. But to say this guy was like a complete hype job and he was no good, I see a lot of people saying that. I think that's complete rubbish, to be honest. I think that's complete rubbish. He beat some pretty good fighters in his day. How about that Franco Maloney rematch? Who's your pick in that? I'll tell you what, man. I would say Franco again. Maloney to me looked very basic, very, very basic. And Franco pieced him up, man. He pieced him up. He hurt him. Put on a really good display, man. Put on a really good display. I would say Franco again. I think Franco beats him again. Yeah, Minimax. Sergio Moore is pretty bad as a commentator. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, fact, John Wayne. Yeah, Conlon, Conlon isn't taking that fight. Bob's going to get him a belt and promote him in New York and Ireland. I agree. And then they're going to cash him out against Shakur Stevenson. And Shakur's going to give him a beating. Elizabeth is doing just fine. So she is. Bit battered and bruised, but to be expected living with me. Oh, yeah. Nazim Hamid made he made Adam Smith cry once, yeah. I'd love to have seen that. Oh, dear. Oh damn! I know. Nazim Hamid's son was boxing now, but I never knew he signed with Sky. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I agree. Paul 123. Nazim Hamid, he's a bit off the cuff and weird on camera, but sometimes he's got so much knowledge. I wish they tried to get him to do more punditry more often. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, when Nazim Hamid was a pundit, he was doing punditry for Eubank versus George Groves, and he stole the show, man. He stole the show. He was so fucking hilarious, man. Very harsh, but sometimes I think that's needed in boxing at times. A lot of these guys, they sit on the fence, don't really give their real opinion, just toe the company line. Nazim Hamid would not do that. That's one thing you can guarantee with Nazim Hamid. You could completely disagree with his opinion, but at least you know it's his. So yeah, I agree. I would like to see Nazim Hamid on punditry. I totally agree. I totally agree. Jason Rosario versus Jamel Charlo. Who do you edge? I've actually got Jamel Charlo, and I would be very confident in Jamel Charlo in that fight. Very confident. I think Rosario would give Charlo all the opportunities he needs to do his thing, Rosario, he applies good pressure. He's a big lump, but ultimately I think Charlo's the better boxer there. I think Charlo's a bit too dynamic for him, in my opinion. Good fight, though. Really fan-friendly fight. I'll tell you what, in regards to Jamel Charlo, I criticised Jamel Charlo a lot. But to me, Jamel Charlo, you know what? That guy's actually got a half-decent resume, to be honest. He's got a half-decent resume, He's beaten Tony Harrison. That's a good win. He beat Erickson Lubin when a lot of people were picking Lubin. Good win. He's beaten some good dudes, man. He beat Austin Trout. He's got a solid resume. Solid resume. He beat Gabe Rosado. He's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. I like Jamel Charlo. And by the way, that second fight with Tony Harrison, that was such an underrated fight last year. Such an underrated fight. That was a great fight, man. Really good fight. Really enjoyed that fight with Jamel Charlo and Harrison, the rematch. I like Jamel Charlo. I've got to be honest. I like Jamel Charlo. He's fighting people, and he wants that Rosario fight as well. He's been saying that from day one. It was Rosario's team who were originally non-committal on that fight, so I can't say anything bad about Jamel Charlo. I'm one of these people, right? If you're giving me good fights that I like, I'm going to give you credit. Do you know what I mean? Even if I don't like you personally, if you're giving me good fights, then what can I say? What can I say? So yeah, Charlo's decent, man. Yeah, Charlo beat Vanes Martirosyan as well. Yeah, another good win. Vanes Martirosyan at that time as well was a genuine top 10 contender and a decent 154 fighter. Yeah, Jamel Charlo's got a decent resume, to be fair. He's got a decent enough resume. I don't mind Jamel Charlo. He's quite exciting as well. He's quite exciting as well, to be fair. TW Design, I find Johnny Nelson cringe. It's too much, at times bordering on strange. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a guy, right, who said he could see how Conor McGregor knocks out Floyd Mayweather. This is Johnny Nelson, an apparent boxing analyst. He said he could see how Conor McGregor knocks out Floyd Mayweather. He said Tony Bellew is better than Alexander Usyk technically. This is a boxing analyst, people. I mean, come on. Everyone here in the chat could do a better job than half of these people on Sky. I'm being serious. I'm being serious. Minimax Boxing, I personally thought Vanes beat Charlo. It was a close fight. I personally felt Charlo nicked it, to be honest. But yeah, close fight. Close fight. Minimax Boxing. Jack Pascal rematch, if it happens, who would you pick? The first fight was arguably as good as Harrison Charlo 2. It was a great fight. Yeah, that's a good point, Minimax. That's another fight that went under the radar last year in terms of great fights. Jack Pascal 1 was a great fight. I personally felt Badu Jack won that fight, by the way. And in a rematch, I would pick Badu Jack again. Badu Jack's the weirdest fighter, though, because he's had so many unfortunate decisions go against him. And the reason is, man, he starts too slow. He starts too slow. Badu Jack is like an old diesel engine. It takes about 20 miles before it's warmed up. Do you know what I mean? But I like Badu Jack as well. I like Badu Jack. I like I like Jean Pascal as well, to be honest. I like Jean Pascal. But there we go. There we go. What do you think about Porky Russ and Dennis Hobson getting a joint TV deal with Eurosports and BBC iPlayer Adele? Listen, man, if they put on good fights, Jim, I'll watch it, mate. I'll watch it. If they put on good fights, I'll watch. Do you know what I mean? They need to put on good fights, though. That's the thing. Terence Crawford versus Jamel Charlo. Interesting. I've heard a little bit of talk about this. Terence Crawford is a much better boxer, much more dynamic. He's a switch hitter. He can basically do it all. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. Tremendous boxer, but Jamel Charlo's a lot bigger. And eventually size matters. Maybe that's the division where size does matter. And Terence Crawford just isn't big enough. I would say 50-50, Minimax. I would have to really think about that. But I would say 50-50. Andre, he says fucking clown. I'm presuming he means Johnny Nelson. Hopefully he's not talking about me. Oh dear. Fucking hell. Paul123. I watched Hay Ruiz the other day. Looking at it now, Hay's performance was pretty shambolic. Took him ages to finish a shot old man and he gassed. Yet the narrative at the time that it was great. Yeah, I remember that, yeah. John Ruiz at that time was shot to bits. Yeah, Badu Jack is too patient, MB. Too patient. You know, if he upped his output a little bit early on in fights, he would have won a lot of these fights. Yeah, Minimax, I feel like I'm in the minority when I say that. He says, I thought Jack beat DeGale clearly too. So do I. I felt he clearly beat James DeGale. A lot of people were saying about James DeGale's work early on in that fight. Well, the last time I checked, hitting somebody's gloves is not a scoring shot. And that's what James DeGale was doing in that fight. Badu Jack had a nice high guard and he was covering up really well. He was soaking a lot of DeGale's shots on his gloves, on his arms. And in the second half of that fight, Badu Jack beat the piss out of James DeGale. I felt Badu Jack won that fight. Nobody will change my mind. Honestly, I think that's one of those fights where I disagree with the narrative in terms of how it went down. Most people see that fight as a really close fight that could have gone either way. I completely disagree. I think Badu Jack clearly won that fight. Clearly. Did Hay duck Cunningham at cruiser for the IBF? He wasn't undisputed. Maybe. I'll tell you what, TW Design. David Hay gets a lot of praise as a cruiserweight. But, you know, there was a lot of guys he didn't fight. Steve Cunningham being one. Thomas Adamek being another, you know. There was guys at that time who he didn't fight. So, was he really the best cruiserweight of his era? I mean, based on collecting the most belts, yes. But, you know, there were still good fighters out there for him to fight. And Cunningham would have been a very hard style matchup for David Hay. Very hard. You think Beterbiev beats Bivol? Yes, sir. I think, yeah, I would take Beterbiev, Andre. I would take Beterbiev. I think Bivol would win the early rounds. I think he'll be sticking and moving, you know, using that jab, walking Beterbiev into like counter shots. But eventually, I think Beterbiev closes the distance. He starts to smother Bivol. He starts to work that body. He starts to rough him up. I could see it being similar to the Vostik fight, to be honest. I could see it playing out similar. But I would take Beterbiev. But Bivol certainly has a chance. I think Bivol's a tremendous boxer. I really do. MB, he says, I thought Groves beat Badu Jack. There, I said it. Jesus. I personally felt Badu Jack won that fight. But it was a close fight. It was a close fight. Definitely a great fight. Paul123, DeGale was so frustrating. On his best day, he was the best 168 fighter by a mile, apart from Ward. Yet he always seems to fight down to the level of his opponent. Should have been a star, yeah. I agree. I think one of the problems with James DeGale was injuries, to be honest. He was always injured. And also, James DeGale was a guy who didn't live the life outside the ring. I've met James DeGale, you know, before, and he was boozed up when I met him, to be honest. That was in Magaluf years ago. And yeah, he was boozed up then. It's a cool guy, though. Real nice guy. But yeah, James DeGale liked to party a bit too much, man. Fair play to him, man. I'd do the same thing if I was a pro boxer. You know, especially at my age, in your 20s. If I come into that sort of money, I wouldn't be dedicated. I'll be honest. I'll be having a good time, man. That's just who I am. So I can't really cuss these guys out for doing that when I'll do the same thing. Dear. Minimax. Who is the most overrated and underrated fighters in boxing? Most underrated for me is Kenshiro, Kayaguchi, and Delakian. Yeah, that's a good shout. I like the Delakian shout. I think he's a very good fighter. I like Delakian's style. Most underrated, though, for me. Who's my most underrated fighter? Most underrated fighter right now. I want to say Tanaka. I don't think Tanaka gets the hype he deserves. Kosei Tanaka, Kazuto Ioka. I don't think any of these guys in those weight classes get the praise they deserve. In all honesty, I mean, Ioka's a 4-weight world champion, not recognized on a pound for pound list. Crazy. Tanaka's not recognized on pound for pound lists either. When easily either or could be on a pound for pound list. How would Beterbiev versus Canelo go? If it's all even, no weight clauses, I would say Beterbiev knocks him out late on, to be honest. Peter, I would say Beterbiev late on. Del, why is Inoue going to become the greatest of his era? I'm not sure whether he will or not, man. I'll be honest. I'm not sure whether he will or not. I'll tell you what would be a great idea, to try and become undisputed at bantamweight. Try and beat Ubali. Try and beat Casemiro, get all of those belts. That'll be a great start. Then move up to super bantamweight and go from there, man. He's in the running, I guess, to be the best of his era. But a lot of work to do, man. A lot of work to do. Minimax, he fought Jack Beatgrove. So do I, man. Unrivaled had it a draw. It was a very close fight. Actually, another underrated fight, I would say. One of those fights that it doesn't really get the credit it deserves. Good fight. Good fight. TW Design. DeGale, I felt, was far too much in the social media world. Having fights with Arj from The Only Way is Ethics in a club was weird. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Del, why do you think... Oh, shit, I've lost where I was. Del, why do you think the government have not taken control of boxing, unlike other sports? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. Maybe it's seen as like a dirty sport, or not a morally correct sport. Maybe it's that. I'm not sure. Man. Interesting, though. It's interesting. DeGale was very skilled, very dangerous. He did not take it seriously, as he is paying now mentally, yeah. And also James DeGale, by the way. Listen to James DeGale at the start of his career in interviews, and listen to him towards the end of his career. The speech deterioration is real. Like, you can hear the difference. That's a good shout, Unrivaled. Canizales, he can do everything. He can box, he can punch, he can fight, he can brawl, fight on the inside, move backwards. Yeah, Canizales can do everything. Oh, I didn't answer most overrated. Minimax says most overrated might be David Benavidez. Good shout. Benavidez could be, but I think he's got a lot of potential and a lot of time to get better. Right now, most overrated, I'm going to say maybe Tank Davis as most overrated. I think from a UK perspective, TW Design's got it nailed on. He says Billy Joe Saunders. I agree with that. I agree. Out of the really young fighters, who do you think will be pound for pound number one first? So young fighters, so like Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, all these guys. I mean, maybe none of them, to be honest. Maybe none of them. But if I had to guess, if I had to make a guess who's got the best chance, I would say Devin Haney out of those guys. I would say Devin Haney. I'll tell you another guy, actually, who's in with a shout, who's got real potential, is Jaron Ennis. I think Jaron Ennis he's a really good prospect at welterweight. Virgil Ortiz as well. That's another one. Maybe Virgil Ortiz. I'm not sure, but interesting question. I think Virgil Ortiz he's one of the best prospects in boxing right now. The Mexican, really good prospect. Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis. They're the future at welterweight, in my opinion. They look very good, and I think they're ready to step up as well. I think they're ready to step up. Yeah, Paul123, he says, personally, I think Groves blew the Jack fight in the crucial rounds. he seemed to lose his head. Mental weakness left over from Froch. Paddy Fitzpatrick told him straight and they fell out. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think I agree. Yeah, Beck for Bullies, another shout. Yep. I agree as well. Unrivaled. Callum Smith, another overrated fighter. Yep. Evening Del Boy. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, Adam? How you doing? What's up, man? Yeah, Virgil's a beast, man. Virgil's a very good fighter. Virgil, I like Virgil as a fighter because he's my favourite style. Boxer puncher who's aggressive, he hits hard, technically pretty precise, does the basics well. I like Virgil Ortiz. I like boxer punchers. That's my go-to style. Boxer punchers or aggressive guys who are technically sound. That's what I like the most. I appreciate all styles, but yeah, I like technical fighters who are aggressive and who can punch. That's what I like. Carlos Castro, yep. Looks a very good prospect, MB. Another guy I like the look of is Edgar Berlanga, the top-ranked prospect. Very hard puncher. He's a middleweight, I believe. Very good prospect. Groves was a better fighter than Jack in his opinion. I'm not sure. A better technician, I agree. I agree. I think he's a better boxer, but in terms of fighter, like pure digging down on your gum shield and weathering tough moments, I think Jack could have been a more natural fighter, if that makes sense. Both really good super middleweights, though. Both really good super middleweights. Rani Alvarado versus Elwyn Soto. Who wins? Do you know what? I'm gonna go Rani Alvarado in that fight. I'm gonna go Rani Alvarado. That might be considered a underdog pick, but I'm going to go Alvarado. TW Design Limited, 100% fit Groves would not have lost the Smith fight. Interesting. He was doing quite well in stages behind that jab, but yeah, he just kind of gassed out and fell to bits, really. What are your thoughts on Almin Kaluli? I think he looks strong now as a pro. Is he the middleweight, MB? Let's have a look. Or am I thinking of... I think I might be thinking of Janibek. Hang on 1 second. Let me type his name in. We've been exposed as a casual. Oh yeah, Janibek. Yeah, I was right. Yeah, Janibek. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, MB. I'm not all that impressed with him as a pro. I'm not all that impressed with him as a pro so far. But I mean, he was a great amateur, so he's got time, and who knows? But right now, not all that sold from what I've seen so far. Yeah, I thought it was Janibek unrivaled. I thought it was. But yeah, I mean, he did beat Anthony Fowler in the Olympics, so you can't hate on that. For that alone, I'll support Janibek. He beat Anthony Fowler up in the amateurs, so what's not to like? Yeah, I agree, Adam Scott. We was talking about this on Mark's stream last night, having a bet on Povetkin to beat Dillian White. Yep, exactly. I totally agree, Adam. Don't forget, Dillian White's been very distracted in the build-up to this fight. Very distracted. Trainer split, WBC legal case, Tyson Fury back and forth. He's been very distracted, so he's worth a bet. He's worth a bet. That Wayfair shit is deep and dark as fuck. Yeah, D man, the shit's depressing when you look at the world for what it is. Depressing as fuck. Just disgusting, man. It's disgusting. And these are the sort of people, man, who dictate to us the law and how we should live, lecturing us and playing divide and rule. Yet look at what these people are doing, man. Disgusting. Disgusting, man. Madrimov needs to be a bit less flashy. I agree, unrivaled. I think he's got all the natural potential in the world. Needs to tone it down a little bit. And I think he'll go a long, long way. A long, long way. I like Madrimov. Damn, boxing virus. He's gone there. He's saying he thinks Beck is the most overrated prospect. Damn, I like Beck. Melikuziev, yeah. My unpopular opinion is that Fury is the best heavyweight ever, except Ali. Jesus. Hang on, I'm lost. Okay, there we go. My unpopular opinion, I think Steve Collins would have beaten Joe Calzaghe. Damn. Well, at that time, Calzaghe, he never fought. He. So basically, how it was, Calzaghe was supposed to fight Steve Collins in 1997. Obviously, Steve Collins pulled out last minute. Chris Eubank Sr. comes in as a last minute replacement. Calzaghe beats Eubank. He becomes WBO champion. Obviously, Calzaghe was supposed to fight Steve Collins originally. At that time, Calzaghe hadn't gone a full 12 rounds, and Steve Collins was very experienced and had more in the tank than Chris Eubank Sr. at that point. So it would have been a tough fight, but I would have said I would have still picked Calzaghe to win personally. But I think it would have been a tougher fight than Eubank was that night, personally. Collins was relentless. TW Design Limited. Steve Collins, man, he was a fucking soldier as well, man. Trust me, tough dude. Yo, big up to Unrivaled, man. Big up to Unrivaled for the super chat. He's saying, "Who's hyping Beck outside of me, mate?" Exactly, man. Unrivaled is the one-man Melacuzia fan club. Do you know what I mean? But I do rate him. Would Froch be allowed to use the loaded gloves or not, though? You're referring to the Lucian Butte fight, Benjo, aren't you? Yep, I've seen those rumours in regards to that fight. I've seen those rumours. That is true, D. That is true. White never had Tibbs in camp, though. He's not been disrupted, to be fair. Yeah, that is true, actually, D. But even like the fallout from it, you know, the stress, the public backlash and shit like that, you know, fighters do look at that sort of stuff. Well, whether Dillian's that sort of guy or not, I'm not sure, but he's had a lot on his plate. And I've heard a lot from Dillian White's camp in regards to various issues, but not many people are talking about fucking Povetkin, a guy in front of him. You can't. I know Povetkin's old; he's past his best, but you can't take your eye off the ball, man. Guy can punch. Guy's got good timing. He's a good counter puncher. Olympic gold medalist. He's no slouch even now, although he might be past it. You know. My unpopular opinion is Anthony Joshua would never have won a world title if Tyson Fury didn't retire or get stripped. Maybe. Who knows, man? I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people would agree. We would have got the fight a lot sooner. You know, we would have got the fight a lot sooner. I'll tell you that much. Between Joshua and Tyson Fury. But yeah, Steve Collins was relentless, TW Design. Steve Collins learnt the hard way, man. He came up in America. He fought guys like Mike McCallum. I think he fought Mike McCallum in like his 16th or 17th fight, something like that. That's crazy. Mike McCallum was probably one of the most underrated fighters in the past 30, 40 years. And Steve Collins fought that guy very early on in his career, you know. Steve Collins learnt the hard way. Tough bastard. Tough dude. Del, how do you think Jose Benavidez would have done against Crawford if he had not been shot beforehand? Maybe a little better, but I don't think he would have beat him, to be honest. Maybe he would have gone the distance, you know, but maybe, yeah, he wouldn't have taken so much punishment to the point where he got stopped. But I don't think he would have beat him or anything like that, personally. Don't think he would have got beaten. Steve Collins avoided Calzaghe and then shamelessly tried to blame the WBO doctor. Nobody had ever heard this story, even the Sky execs who were promoting the fight. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But, you know, it is what it is. Would have been a good fight, though, man. Would have been a really good fight. Yeah, smash the like, lads, by the way. Be much appreciated. Much appreciated. I'm knackered, by the way. Fuck me. Adam Scott, he's not a Calzaghe super fan like some, but he would have beaten both Froch and Collins. I agree. I think he'd have beaten both of those guys on points. Would have been competitive in stages, but Calzaghe too much, too fast, too much volume, too much foot speed. Yeah, Calzaghe's just A bit too much for those guys, in my opinion. Unrivaled Boxing Talking News, my very unpopular opinion, Golovkin is the most overrated fighter in the last 20 years. Damn. A lot of people are in that camp. I've seen a lot of people in that camp. A lot of people are. I'm kind of over the whole Golovkin thing right now, to be honest. I think he's we've seen the best of Golovkin. We've seen the best of Golovkin at this point. Strange Dillian put reason for splitting being Tibbs wanting to be with kids when Tibbs said in the interview he was willing to go to Portugal as soon as the fight date was finalised. Yeah, exactly. There's more to that story than meets the eye, Ruben Guerrero. More to that story than meets the eye. Yeah, TW. Mike McCallum. Yeah, Collins gave Mike McCallum some tough rounds. You know, he didn't lie down. He didn't lie down. I think Mike McCallum, for Ring Magazine, do this series called Best I Fought, and I think Mike McCallum said Steve Collins was the toughest guy he fought in terms of pure toughness. So Collins was a fucking hard man. He was a tough dude. He really was. And to this day, I say this as an Englishman, Steve Collins doesn't get the respect he deserves. He should be up there with Eubank and Nigel Benn. He beat both at the end of the day, you know. I know Ben was well past his best, but the Eubank win was still good. I'll be honest, this could be an unpopular opinion. I think Steve Collins would always beat Chris Eubank, always. Stylistically, I think he always had his number. My popular opinion, Adam Booth is a useless bum. I think he's overrated. I do agree. I do agree. Hay and Booth revitalised British boxing, although they're both gits, yeah. You could say that. You could say that. You know? Yeah, that's true, Kevin Ide. Yeah, that's true. If he got the decision over Canelo, we'd wank over him, let's be honest. Yeah, that's true. And it goes to show how one bad judging decision can completely change the way you look at a resume, because in 20 years' time, people are going to look at Golovkin's resume, they're going to see a draw. They're not going to see the story behind it, you know? And that's a shame. It's a shame, but it is what it is, man. That's boxing. That's the sport we follow, man, you know? Not a perfect sport, but we still follow it. We still love it, you know? Adam Scott, the problem with Golovkin is that he didn't fight on anyone his level till he was 35. His best years were against the likes of Rosado, Macklin, Murray, etc. I would agree. People say Golovkin struggles now because he's fighting higher competition. I think that's partly disingenuous. I would say it's a double-edged thing. He's struggling now because, yes, he is fighting higher competition, but the guy's also 38 years old. Do you know what I mean? He fought Canelo in the first fight. What was he, 36 or something like that? So, of course, man, you're going to slow down. You know, of course. What's been one of your favourite boxing conspiracy theories? Adam Booth's and Groves' split being fake as a way to play mind games with Froch in the build-up to the first fight was pretty funny, yep. Well, conspiracy theories, just look at Deontay Wilder fanboys right now. They're coming out with absolute humdingers, you know, loaded gloves. Deontay Wilder was drugged. There was a snake in the camp. All sorts of excuses there. When Joshua lost to what's his face, Andy Ruiz, the funniest excuse I saw was that there was two actually. Joshua was drugged by Al Heyman, and the other was Joshua wasn't even in the ring that night. It was a clone. So I've heard some funny excuses, man. You know, heard some funny excuses. Ian Ward, I'm sure Steve Collins is a farmer now. Interesting. I always like the way Steve Collins talks about boxing. It's a shame he doesn't like get involved in boxing media. I like Steve Collins personally. I like Steve Collins. My factual opinion, no heavyweight in history can beat a prime Larry Holmes. Do you know what? Prime Larry Holmes stylistically gives everyone nightmares. That jab, the best jab in heavyweight history, man. No doubt. He fought with a beautiful rhythm. He had grit. He had a good chin. He could fight as well. He was a great fighter. Great fighter. Nigel Benn was on the old Colombian marching powder for the Gerald McClellan fight. Yo, Nigel Benn always fought like he snorted a fat line, let's be honest. He looked wired half the time, Nigel Benn. He looked wired. The only bad thing about Steve Collins was he appeared in that U2 music video. Yes, sir. U2 are terrible, man. Jesus. But yeah, I like Steve, man. I like Steve Collins. Yeah, Ben was a warrior, Tommy. Ben was a fucking great fighter, man. Blood and guts. Blood and guts. Yeah, Joshua had a body clone, yep. That was going around. Dente Wilder. I like it. Dente Wilder. Yeah. That whole shit's not going to slow down anytime soon, Rob. This whole Wilder Glovegate shit. You might as well make fun of it, man. Have some fun with it. Have a laugh with it. You're not gonna convince these people that it was just a fight that Deontay Wilder lost. You're not going to convince these people. You know, if Deontay Wilder told these guys the sky was fucking green, they would believe him. You know, that's their level of fandom for this man. So there's no point trying to convince them otherwise. Now, this is interesting. The best boxing conspiracy theory of all time is that Max Schmeling lost to Joe Louis in the second fight on the cusp of World War II to spare his life. That's interesting. That's interesting. See, that's got historical context to it as well. Very interesting. I'm going to look into that one as well. Online, actually, Unrivaled. I'm going to look into that one. That sounds very interesting. That sounds like it's up my street. I'm actually quite into World War II and shit, and wars in general, like modern wars. I'm kind of into that sort of shit. So I'll look into that. Adam Scott, I hope Fury ducks the third rematch. Shit. Yeah, I'm going to look into that though. Unrivaled. That's interesting. I think Paul123. I think Wilder in 10 years will be a laughing stock. People will look at his career and reign as a champion as an utter joke. Yep. It's like Marciano and the mob connection. You never know. Yet Marciano, you know, he obviously had that mob connection. Sonny Liston was another one. In my opinion, he did not have an overdose. He did, but it was forced. He was murdered, in my opinion. Sonny Liston, I think he was murdered. But there we go. There we go. There's a lot of those sort of stories in boxing. I think I heard one in regards to obviously Arturo Gatti is another one. Arturo Gatti. Did Arturo Gatti really kill himself, or was he murdered? You know, I mean, that whole case in itself looks very fishy. The whole Arturo Gatti case, very fishy. I think he was probably killed, to be honest. Who killed Freddie Mills? You ever seen that documentary? No, I've not. Freddie Mills, was he the guy they accused of being a serial killer? Or they hang on. He was the guy they thought was a serial killer or something, wasn't it? Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. MB. Yeah, but Sonny Liston death is mad, Unrivaled. I don't believe he killed himself or had like an irregular overdose. I don't believe that. Benjo, he says, you know how Tyson Fury gave Warren the black eye before the Solis fight. I think Fury gave Warren the dent in his forehead with his loaded glove. Shit. Was it Grant that killed Max Kellerman's brother? Yeah. What's his name? Fucking, I forgot his name. Yeah, I know who you mean though. People were literally too terrified to even ask for Liston's autograph or a picture. He was the most feared heavyweight champion in history, but because his reign was so short, people have forgotten. Yeah, his jab, by the way, I've watched his fights back. His jab, man, boom! That jab was like a fucking rocket. That jab, man, could take your head clean off. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. Yes, sir, Max Kuckerman. You know. When does Ghislaine Maxwell go on trial officially? July 2021. So Ghislaine Maxwell's got a whole year to trip on a banana skin and die, you know, or somehow fall and hit her head or catch COVID. But what's next for Gabe Rosado? I've heard rumours of a fight with Danny Jacobs, believe it or not. If he gets that fight, man, his agent's done very well, or his manager's done very well. But he's always going to be in the mix for sort of certain level of fights. He'll always come to fight, man. Gabe Rosado. I'll always watch him as well. I don't care how many losses that guy's got. He's always entertaining. So I'll watch that dude fight. Right, everyone. When's Maxwell dying? So he says, when's Maxwell dying? When do we reckon? I want theories on how she's going to die and when she's going to die. My theory on how she's going to die is COVID. She's going to die from COVID, and she's going to die. When is she going to die? The fall this year. She's going to die in the winter, sort of fall winter this year of COVID. You know. Oh well, COVID second spike in the winter. Ghislaine Maxwell caught COVID. She died. You know. Yeah. He's got a five Unrivaled. He's got a fiver on Maxwell in November by Pneumonia. Pneumonia, that's a very good shout, Unrivaled. Pneumonia, yeah. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, I was right, Tone. Freddie Mills was a suspect for a number of murders that took place in Hammersmith in the 60s. Yeah, that is who I was thinking of. Yeah, Freddie Mills. I have heard of that documentary. I think it was it MB who originally said that about Freddie Mills. Yeah, I have heard of that documentary. I need to watch that. Do you know what? I really enjoy documentaries, but I never watch boxing documentaries for whatever reason. Fucking never watch them. She accidentally swallowed the toothbrush in her cell in November. Oh dear. TW Design. I think she does a plea bargain and lives, and Prince Andrew gets off scot-free. Wouldn't be surprised, TW Design. What we do know, Prince Andrew is not seeing any sort of questioning, and he's certainly not going to see justice. You know, the royal family are a complete bunch of degenerates. They've surrounded themselves with pedos in the past. I mean, fucking Jimmy Savile was Prince Charles' best friend. You know, the police knew what Jimmy Savile was about. You think the royal family don't vet people before they invite them in their home? Are you serious? They knew what that guy was, and yet they still hung around with him. Lord Mountbatten was a known paedophile. The royal family are a bunch of degenerates. They can't be trusted, and why people still worship these fucking devils is beyond me. They should be fucking abolished. They should be stripped of their monarchy, done away with. Evil. Evil. The Queen eats kids, yeah. Anybody has the chance. I forget the story, but read into the missing kids from Canada involving the Queen. I'm not sure what you got to type in. It's been a long time since I've watched it. But yeah, those people are fucking evil, man. They really are evil. Can't stand any of these people, man. That's why I don't vote as well, man. Our parliament, on both sides, Labour, Conservatives, these people, man, have been complicit in child abuse, either covering it up or participating. I'm not voting for any of these fucking clowns. Evil fucking Satanists, man. For Queen and Country, it's the biggest load of shit. Yeah, 100%, Luca. 100%. Yeah, she owns 80% of the land outright in the UK. Embarrassing. It's crazy, man. Rob Plant, Harry is the one that knows and he doesn't like it, in my opinion. Yeah, but even Prince Harry right now, man, I think he's looking weak out there with that Meghan Markle, to be honest. Like that guy sitting there lecturing people, you know, from his ivory throne on how to live life, how to be virtuous and shit like that. Get out of here, man. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. I can't stand the royals. I really can't. But there we go. There we go. Anyway, lads, I'm going to wrap this one up. We've been going for, 1 hour and 40 minutes. That's actually gone really quickly. I'm going to do these more regularly. I did one the other day. Done one today. Next live stream, whenever that may be, I'll have a few people on. We'll have a little chat. But yeah, man. Smash the like button on the way out. Be much appreciated. And yeah, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. I've got a couple of bits to do. And yeah, catch you on the next one. Peace.